why don't we just get back into a little bit of madness? So guys, new computer's up and running. Just gonna do a quick video because, well, quite frankly, there's a lot of things I still have to do. So, you know, was gonna do some Gloomhaven. The characters, those characters got so much detail and stuff, and I don't want to be taking a really long time. So I'm gonna do some deep madness. I'm just gonna do one simple little guide just so I can get him painted. I've been wanting to do him for a while anyway. He came with the Kickstarter on the second round of Deep Madness, and that's this guy right here. That's the Ward Phillips Investigator. Oh, it's got, I guess, all the different cards for all the different languages. So there's, I guess, what he's supposed to look like. You know, all the cards depending on whatever language for wherever, right? So first one here is the English, and then the rest of them you've got everything from everywhere around the world. It seems to have a book in his hands with tentacles coming out of it. So pretty clear, you can see that even in the character. So the one thing we'll have to do is we're going to have to get them primed first, and then we're going to get into painting them. Alright, so we've got them all primed and ready to go. And we're going to use a little bit of that black contrast again. And I'm just going to use that for his shoes because it goes on nice and thin, and I don't want to take away the detail that's actually in his shoes. You can see his soles, you can see, you know, everything in there. So doing a few layers over time with this, I think it's going to look better than if I was to use a thicker black, like the black from Citadel or something. So moving along, now we're using the Citadel Blue, the Macragge. It's a little bit of a darker blue, and I'm going to use this for his pants. Alright, now when you look at the picture, he's all blue. Alright, but you know, I always find you gotta have at least a slight shade difference between the coat and the pants, because you want them to be distinguishable. You want to see that there is a break between the two. Right now, normally if you think lighting, pants should probably be a little bit darker than the jacket, you know, if they were somewhat a closer match. Right, you know, so I just went with the darker for the pants, and we'll do a lighter blue for the jacket. Now this is just first coat as well. So here, now we're going to use Warpaint Ultramarine Blue. Now this is just a little, just a touch lighter than the Citadel. And again, see, like, this is basic painting, and I call this basic painting because I'm not doing a whole lot of mixing of paints and stuff. Like, I'm not doing all the pro kind of stuff you see like others do. I'm just using the colors for what they are right out of the bottles. So you can see that slight difference. Now mixing paint and layering paint, that's a little bit different, right? Because, you know, you can't just have one tone, one color. It just doesn't make sense. When you look at anything, it's never like that. You know, there's always a stain on the shirt, or there's always a little bit of light showing down, or there's always a crease or a wrinkle that stands out, right? Or that's been worn more than anywhere else in the clothes. So now that we've got the base down, I'm gonna do a Citadel Skink Blue. And this is like a dry brush blue, right? And that's exactly what we're going to do. And we're going to go on fairly heavy with this because we want to see everything kind of stand out. And look at that. Now it looks a little rough, almost like he has dust on it, but we're going to add some Nuln oil now. That's going to fill in all the little cracks and crevices. It's going to darken it back up, but we don't want it to look dirty. This is just, again, another layer. And again, brings, because you've got now the Nuln oil between the pants and the top, it kind of brings it together a little more. Then I just kind of go back to the two original colors and fill in just a bit. And there we go. We've got some highlights. We've got it a little bit dark in areas, like underneath the pant, underneath the back of the jacket there. You know, and everything kind of blends together, but you can still distinguishably see the difference between the top and the bottom, or the jacket and the pants. So now we'll just get right into doing the skin tone for his face and his hands. Again, just a basic layer to start. This only takes a quick second. Now, if you ask me, he's starting to form here a little. Starting to see a bit of the character. So now, a little bit of matte white from Armypaints again. I like this white because it comes out with just a little bit, which sometimes that's all you need. All I'm doing here is I'm just putting the white in the shirt that he has, because he's obviously got a white shirt on underneath. Now back to this blue again from Citadel, and it's mainly just because he's got a matching tie. So we're gonna get that tie done. I wanted to do the shirt obviously first because the tie sits on top. And now that just kind of breaks up all that white in his chest now. And you can see that he in fact does have a tie on. So here we go. Now we're going to use a little bit of that contrast black from Citadel. And I'm going to use that to highlight where his eyes and mouth and nostrils and nose and all that stuff is. Because he's so small, right? And this is a really nice watered down kind of black to fill that in before I start finishing his face off with the flesh color. And I'm also going to use it for doing his hair. Now I thought this would be a good idea just because he does have detail in his hair, and if I do a few layers with this, that detail is going to show through. And he's coming along, starting to look a little bit more like that picture. Just a few minor details we got to work out. We still got to get the base done, so let's just keep at it. I figured while I've got it out, may as well touch up his shoes with another layer. So now they're starting to darken up, but you can still see where the sole and the laces and everything else are. Now on to some Vallejo black. Now with this, just basically going to use this to get that base covered very quickly. It doesn't have to be perfect, and I'll show you why near the end of the video. But it does have to be dark, not white. Now, using a little bit of Zandari dust. I love this stuff. I use this all the time in contrast with a lot of other colors. It seems to be a very versatile color from Citadel. Right, I keep having to buy another bottle every now and again because I do use this more often than a lot of other colors. And I'm going to use this for the bottom of his book. When you look at the picture, it is kind of that color of a binding for the book, or the book cover. So here we are with Armypaints Arid Earth. Now, I mainly just wanted to use a little bit of an off-white kind of color, which that's what this really is, for the kind of like for the pages in the book. I didn't want to be pure white. I think this actually works good. It gives it almost like there's a bit of an age to the page. Tanned flesh. So here we go. Now, using the tanned flesh, I'm actually going to use this for his tentacle type thing that's coming out from the books. Now this is kind of going on fairly light, as you can see, but that's kind of on purpose. You know, we don't want it to be too dark because we're going to add some shade to that to darken it up anyway. So there he is, with just that. It's pretty light. But here we're going to add some Earthshade. And that'll just fill in all the little detail. And it'll darken it up at the same time. Plus, being an Earthshade, that earthy tone, it's going to look great. And there we go. Tentacles are done. So, under the light right there is a little bright, but they actually look pretty fantastic. Now, I'm just going to take some of the gonna take some of the blue that I had earlier, and we're just gonna now add that into the base. And the reasons for this is because of how I'm going to do up this base afterwards. Now, if you've watched some of my earlier videos, right, there is a water texture from Vallejo that I use, and I've already used it on the other characters, right, so I'm going to use it on him as well. The characters from the first box, from the main base game, they were already painted just all blue, and I should have actually did them with a little bit of black here and there like I did on this one, so that when you put that layer of texture over top, it looks like there's some depth to the water underneath. You'll see what I mean coming up. And I just basically put a black ring around there with a flat black with that Citadel, just to kind of tidy up the base. So moving along, now we're starting to get pretty good here for where we want to stand. Just a few things to touch up. One of them is that his face and his hands are kind of bland. We want his fingers to kind of show. We want to see that definition in his face. So let's use a little bit of some like flesh tone. Now this is from Citadel as well, and I figured, you know what, I've used the other shades from Citadel, so I may as well stick with the same brand for this. And you'll see when I put this in, now all of a sudden you can see the details in his hand. And of course it adds a little bit more of a realistic color of flesh to the color of his skin. So I also add a little bit of that to the tentacles that is coming out of the book, just to darken up a little more, add that extra fleshiness to it, and I think that's going to look pretty good. Not bad. Now when I compare it to the page, it looks pretty good. Color-wise, the tentacles now are a little bit, you know, like it's a little far out there in the picture. Like they've come out right up past his shoulders. It's not quite the same, but to the most part, not a bad resemblance. So one last thing we can also do with a little bit of Citadel, adding a bit of glossiness with this stuff, the Ard coat. I'm sure going to be a little bit of a shine to his shoes. I didn't go too crazy because he's been walking around in water and muck. But I also add that shininess to the tentacles coming out, because you would think they'd be kind of like a wet, you know, like the way a snake looks or an octopus or something. It's got that wetness to the skin. So here's our final step. We're going to add some Vallejo water texture to the base. Now as I add it, it looks very blue. But trust me, it doesn't necessarily stay that way. As it dries up, it actually becomes somewhat semi-transparent. So that's why you want to have your color bases down underneath, so that it kind of resembles a little bit of depth to the water. As I do it too, I purposely make little ripples, so it's like he's standing in the water and moving around. And that's her. We just gotta let that dry, put a clear coat on him, and he's good to go. And here he is finished. You can see how the stuff dried out, and you can see through it. So, but with all the ripples, you know, it looks very cool, very watery. And that's him. So if you like what you see, please subscribe, hit that like button, and you know, leave comments, whatnot, if there's other things you want to see me do. Hopefully I'll be getting some more content out there. It's been tough this summer with a lot of family matters and whatnot being taken care of, but I'll have plenty more content, more videos coming your way very shortly. And thank you for watching.